Our world changes. We'll keep you up to date. News Talk KVNU, 102 FM, 610 AM. Also on the new KVNU mobile app.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by U&I Furniture. 2 people are dead, 4 more injured, including a police officer in Boise after a gunman opened fire inside Boise's biggest mall this afternoon. ABC's Alex Stone has the details.
A single shooter wearing all black, police say, opened fire inside of the mall. When confronted by a responding officer, there was a shootout. The officer was injured, the suspect arrested. Police Chief Ryan Lee.
At this time, we believe that there was only a single shooter involved and that there is no ongoing threat or danger to the community at large from this incident.
A motive is unclear. The FBI and ATF are on scene helping Boise police. Alex Stone, ABC News.
Authorities say it was at the Boise Town Mall, and also Boise's mayor, Lauren McLean, thanked the police officers and first responders who rushed to the scene.
You came quickly. You showed compassion to so many people that were scared at a really tough moment.
Again, a shooting at a mall in Boise, at the Boise Town Mall, has left 2 people dead, 4 more injured. We'll have more on this afternoon and into this evening here on KVNU. KVNU News Time is 5:06. KVNU weather for tonight. Rain in the forecast for tonight. Overnight low in the mid-30s and 100% chance of rain. Gusty winds at times as well. And then a chance of rain and snow before 9 a.m. tomorrow. Mostly cloudy and cooler. High temperature in the mid-40s. Earlier today, we hit 62. I think that was this morning. With rain right now, it's 54 at KBNU. And there is a winter weather advisory in effect from 6 o'clock this evening till noon Tuesday above 7,500 feet for the Wasatch Mountains. North of Interstate 80. Weather brought to you by Roof Rescue. Even if you are denied by your insurance company, the first time you receive a quote to fix your roof, a free reevaluation can be made. Visit roofrescueusa.com to schedule your free consultation. That's roofrescueusa.com. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind.
As you've noticed, the season has changed, and the holidays are coming, and so are your guests. You need beds for them to sleep in and a new couch to sit on. Well, with family and friends coming, U&I Furniture is the place to help you be ready. Find the popular-selling queen-size therapeutic mattress for only $3.99. Or here's an idea. Move the bed you're sleeping on to the guest room and upgrade your mattress. See all the chairs, too, at U&I's Chair Heaven. Accent chairs, lift chairs, and, of course, recliners. There's always a better buy at U&I Furniture in downtown Logan.
KVNU News Time is 5:08. 1 person died and a 9-year-old was left in critical condition following a head-on crash on State Route 39 east of Ogden. Officials say the crash happened at about 4:40 yesterday afternoon near Pineview Reservoir. An Audi SE was traveling eastbound and a Dodge pickup truck was headed westbound. For an unknown reason, the Audi suddenly crossed the double yellow center line, causing the 2 cars to crash in a head-on collision. After the crash, the Dodge left the roadway and rolled onto its top before coming to a stop in a dirt pullout adjacent to the reservoir. The driver of the Audi was pronounced dead at the scene. The 9-year-old who was in the back seat, not properly buckled in, was transported to the hospital in serious condition, critical condition, that is. The front adult passenger of the Audi was transported to the hospital in serious condition. The driver of the Dodge was also transported with lower body injuries. And Navajo Nation officials reported 24 additional COVID-19 cases and 2 deaths from the virus as of Sunday night. Tribal officials still are urging people to get vaccinated, wear masks while in public, and minimize their travel. Since the pandemic began, 36,109 COVID cases and 1,473 deaths have been reported on the tribe's reservation that covers parts of Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico. KBNU News Time is 5:09. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Jeep owners know that owning a Jeep from Heritage is more than owning a vehicle. It's a lifestyle, it's a community, and most of all, it's freedom. From driving the kids down the street to exploring the rugged peaks of the Wasatch Mountains, Jeep will get you there. And right now at Heritage, we're celebrating Jeep Adventure Days, when you can get 0% financing for up to 72 months available on several new Jeep models. There's never been a better time to get the Jeep that's right for you. From the luxurious Grand Cherokee to the all-new Wagoneer and the iconic rugged Jeep Wrangler. At Heritage, our number one priority is the satisfaction of our guests, and our team is dedicated to providing you with a superior service. Come on down and see us in Logan, Tremont, and Brigham City, and find out for yourself why Heritage Jeep owners are Jeep owners for life. Heritage, your hometown dealer with the biggest deals.
Charles is dying from COVID-19, not because he has the disease, but because he has to travel 95 miles in an ambulance to the nearest open ICU bed. Yes, his local ICU was just minutes away, but it's full of COVID patients, nearly all of whom haven't been vaccinated. So, if you think you're not hurting anyone by skipping the vaccine, think again. Please, get vaccinated. Find a location at coronavirus.utah.gov.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News, a deep dive on the items in the trillion-dollar social safety net being pushed by Democrats, like the child tax credit, expanding Medicare, and paid leave. Also, how the 20 years of war in Afghanistan has dented military readiness, and how an electric vehicle can cost more to drive than a standard gasoline car. We'll have a side-by-side comparison. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Tuesday edition, Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show. The latest on the budget reconciliation bill. Is it going to happen? The border crisis rolls on. Plus, Buck, we got some awesome guests.
We have Zalmay Khalilzad, who was the U.S. ambassador and the direct negotiator with the Taliban under both Trump and Biden, for a huge interview on just what happened this past summer. We'll get into that coming up on the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People, hour 2 of today's show, Monday, October 25th. A lot of water in the air, enjoying this rain. It's very nice to see. We need it. Some of it in certain areas of the state translating into snowpack this early in the year. That's a welcome sign. And fingers crossed that it holds up. We'll see. We had some wet weeks heading into the 2021 winter, and then it just stopped. So a lot of concern heading into winter this year with reservoirs. A report last week showing more than 50% of the state's reservoirs are at 40% of capacity. Last year at this time, they were about between 70 and 90%. So, yeah, fingers crossed. The debate over water will continue. Later on this hour, we'll talk about an upcoming Great Salt Lake Summit that Speaker of the House, Republican lawmaker Brad Wilson, is hosting, hoping to get people talking about the Great Salt Lake and any way that public policy can help the lake. We can't do without it, and we got to a record-setting low in lake levels this year. So that, of course, has spin-off ramifications. Without the lake, you have less lake effect, less snowpack hitting those Wasatch Back Mountains. You also have toxic dust from exposed lake bed that's stirred into the air by wind and contributes to both rapid snow melt in the mountains as that dust settles on snow, makes it melt faster, and we lose our snowpack earlier, but also general air pollution concerns with the winter inversions and more. It's a rapid downward cycle, the report said, should the lake levels remain as low as they were this year indefinitely. So the Great Salt Lake Summit is coming up in a couple of weeks. We'll tell you how you can be a part of it. Speaker Brad Wilson wanting public input on this, wanting ideas from water managers, county commissioners, the public, people who have anything to say about the Great Salt Lake. And its biggest contributor, of course, is our region, the Bear River Bear River watershed, not heritage area, a lot of people eyeing that area up for development, which would take more water from the Great Salt Lake. It seems like an impossible problem, but it is surmountable, Speaker Wilson said, but we need to get on it. So that's coming up in a few weeks. We'll talk about it in more detail later on in the hour, even have some clips from Speaker Wilson that we'll get to. I wanted to update everyone on this. We talked about it here on the show when it happened more than a year ago. I don't know, this is, two aspects of this. This is one of the stories that social media just really exposes itself as the toxic contributor to our dialogue and conversation as it can be, because people have been quick to rush to judgment on this. But there's a chance that this story actually has a tragic aspect to it. The story today is a St. George area Utah Republican lawmaker has been charged with poaching and an additional weapons offense by the Millard County Attorney's Office. Charges were filed last week and made public early this week. And Representative Travis Siegmiller, a Republican lawmaker from St. George, was charged by the Millard County Attorney's Office with a Class B misdemeanor of unlawfully taking of with the unlawful taking of protected wildlife and unlawful discharge of a firearm within city limits. The story, as it came out, was strange. Some people in the St. George area called police and said there's a man walking down our street in a subdivision. I mean, this wasn't out in the hills around St. George. This was in a subdivision in town. A man walking down a street with a rifle, and he's firing it. Now, understandably, people would call the cops. It happened just outside of the person who called the cops, outside of their yard, in a private residence in the town of New Harmony, just outside of St. George proper there in the area. Representative Siegmiller was apprehended later on. He left the scene and then was later contacted by authorities, and he said that he was hunting because his family couldn't afford food. People were quick to rush to judgment because, of course, this is an elected official, and I guess some of that comes with the territory. But if it's true, now some people have questioned whether that was true. Others have accused Representative Siegmiller of just feeling like he was above the law because he actually said that. He kind of gave a "don't you know who I am" statement to authorities when they first made the arrest. But if this is a situation where, one of our citizen lawmakers couldn't afford food for the dinner table, and there were deer, in these areas, as we have happened even here in Logan City sometimes, and he was out hunting to feed his family, that's tragic. Speaker Brad Wilson said, "I'm deeply troubled by these accusations and will continue to monitor the situation as it makes its way through the court." And in response to Millard County's intention to charge Representative Siegmiller with 3 misdemeanor offenses. Beyond the criminal charges, Fox 13 News reports Rep. Siegmiller could also face action from the House of Representatives. If he's convicted, he could be censured or even expelled from the body. He was originally appointed to this seat after his predecessor, John Standard, quit after an escort claimed to a British tabloid that Standard had paid her for a sexual encounter. So this has been a troubled seat for a while now. The incident, the animal crossed the road after being shot and died on a piece of private property, and there are photos. Utah Division of Wildlife Resources said he did have a permit to take a deer, but killing on private property and firing a gun within city limits, of course, illegal on 2 different fronts. So an update on that story. Again, people were quick to rush to judgment on this, but if it is true that he was shooting a deer to feed his family, of course, he still broke the law, and firing a gun within city limits is just dumb, but tragic if that's the case. If it's the case that he just pulled a "don't you know who I am, I'm above the law because I'm a state lawmaker," well, then hopefully they throw the book at him. But really wish people would wait to see which one of those it is as it makes its way through the court. Either way, this is the dominant story on social media today here in Utah. And that news coming out just a few hours ago. More of KVNU's For the People. Stay tuned right after this.
Logan Dental Associates has been serving Cache Valley for over 20 years. They are excited to announce the addition of Dr. Brandon Preby, hygienist Emily Preby, and Dr. Curtis Taylor. Dr. Preby and Dr. Taylor will also continue to work at Cherry Creek Dental in Richmond. Now allow for increased hours and advanced services at Logan Dental Associates in Logan. Call and make your appointment with Dr. Brandon Preby or Dr. Curtis Taylor at Logan Dental Associates by calling 435-787-8207.
Attention homeowners! You may have noticed the ground shift after your foundation has been poured, causing your house to sink or settle. Protect your investment from issues before they happen. Polylift Concrete Raising and Piering will stabilize, lift, and eliminate further settling by using Magnum Piering products to save you big money down the road. Polylift Concrete Raising and Piering are the foundation lifting experts. Visit poly-lift.com to schedule your free assessment or call or text 435-999-9309. Polylift is locally owned and operated.
NMLS 1817019.
LendRight Mortgage declares freedom from high rates and closing costs with the introduction of our Freedom Loan. What is a Freedom Loan? 1, you pay 0 closing costs. 2, you get a rate that's the same or lower than the rate other lenders charge you thousands in points and fees to get. The choice is clear. Pay thousands more than you should with another lender, or get the same or lower rate and have the Freedom Loan cover 100% of your closing costs. Act now. Freedom Loan APRs are as low as 1.92% for 8 to 15-year terms and 2.67% for 16 to 30-year terms. Call 801-APPROVE or visit lendrightmortgage.com. Get a Freedom Loan and say no to high rates and closing costs. Call 801-APPROVE or visit lendrightmortgage.com.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. We brought this up in hour one, and a lot of people have been asking about this. I got a couple of texts and one email from listeners, so just throwing this update in there. No, the National Weather Service does not expect the snow levels to hit the valley benches or floors. But again, the Logan Canyon is under a roughly 24 hours, what they're saying right now. That might change, but next 24 hours, Logan Canyon is under a winter weather advisory, meaning basically winter weather could erupt at any point. And so that's something to keep in mind. Further east of there, for our listeners, if you're out there in western Wyoming, again, we used to have a regular caller from Rock Springs. If you're way out there listening, high wind advisory still in effect for you, although that is coming off here along the Wasatch Front and in northern Utah. Still a high wind advisory for basically everything east of the Garden City area or the Evanston area if you're listening further south. So those are the ones to be really concerned about. As far as valley benches, valley floors, Sardine Canyon, it's not expected that this rain will turn to snow in those areas as of the forecast right now. Also, questions from listeners in hour one about this tragic story out of Boise. 2 dead, 6 injured in a mall shooting there in Boise. And no additional information about that yet, though we'll keep you posted via ABC News throughout the news breaks in the evening. But what we do know, suspect is in custody. 2 people confirmed dead, 6 confirmed injured, including a police officer in a shooting at a shopping mall today in Boise, Idaho. At a news conference, authorities said officers did exchange gunfire with the suspect. The majority of the mall has been cleared, but police are still looking for additional victims, or were still looking for additional victims as of, this update is at this point now 8 minutes old. So still kind of an active thing going on there. Police have not released any additional information at this point, but they are asking people in the Boise area still to avoid the mall area and are currently notifying families of those involved If you're familiar with downtown Boise, the Boise Town Square Shopping Mall is basically the largest single retail entity in Boise, and it's a large building, and the police said they have dozens of people still to interview outside. They were doing so outside the entrance of the Macy's store there. Caught a bit of that on the news earlier. And one of just 5 large department stores there, but there are 153 stores overall. So still a lot of work to do there, even though a suspect is in custody. And we'll keep you posted as we learn more. Just a harrowing quote from the Associated Press story on this earlier this afternoon, just sticking with me. A 60-year-old woman interviewed by the Associated Press said, we're trying to process it. She said, we were there in the mall. Her name was Sherry Guypen, I think is how you pronounce it, of Boise. And she was there in the mall with her friend. They go for a mall walk, and they do it 3 or 4 times a week. So they just happened to be there today. She said they heard gunshots, and she said at first she thought something had fallen from the ceiling as she and her friend were walking the mall there, and then she said suddenly just this rush of people, including some families with strollers, running at them, and she said we were frozen and realized at a certain point, this is a serious thing. And she said she turned to her friend and said, "We've got to run." And they ran as best they could and got outside and out the perimeter into the parking lot, and were kind of stuck there waiting for instructions from the police at that point. But just a harrowing firsthand account of these 2 older women walking the mall today when this shooting occurred. So, again, for those asking, no additional details have been released at this point, but it is confirmed now that a suspect is in custody after, again, 2 people killed, 6 injured so far is the count at a mall there in Boise this afternoon. Could really do without these events happening any longer, but all right, moving on. Not a headline I ever expected to read, but Intermountain Healthcare is asking for donations. This is, again, it's not like there isn't money in hospitals and insurance, right? This is a supply chain issue. Intermountain Healthcare, the University of Utah Health, Steward Health, and the statewide Utah Hospital Association are launching a donation drive, they announced today, called Lean on Utah. The goal for this is not financial donations, but equipment. Metal crutches, walkers, canes, non-motorized wheelchairs, and they're asking anyone throughout Utah. Glenn Beebe, a spokesperson for Intermountain Healthcare, said, anyone throughout Utah, search your closets, your attics, garages, any unused equipment along these lines. Their busiest time of the year for this type of equipment especially is November and December, he said, Beebe said, and he said they are running short. This is due to, again, supply chain issues, manufacturing issues, and so Utah hospitals asking for wheelchairs, walkers, crutches, and other donations amid a supply shortage. It's, like I say, not a headline I woke up this morning thinking we'd be talking about, but here we are. Utah hospitals asking for donations. The way this works, there are going to be 3 donation times: Saturday, October 30th, Saturday, November 6th, and Saturday, November 13th. And for those of you listening here in Cache Valley, Logan Regional Hospital is a donation site for that. Utah hospitals and clinics, again, in need of gently used. They prefer it be functional or at least in need of only moderate repairs. But they're hoping for donations of aluminum crutches, canes, walkers, and non-motorized wheelchairs. These are the things they're running short on. And if you'll notice, all of these are metal. All of these are manufactured. And that's along the lines of one of many things, plastics included, that are running short in what is basically at this point a global shortage of aluminum. We're not running out of aluminum. It's just the supply chain is broken down. So there's a global shortage of aluminum products, and crutches, canes, and walkers are traditionally, to be lightweight, made of aluminum. So in very short supply, hospital spokesperson Glenn Beebe said. And so throughout Utah on these 3 dates, again, Saturday, October 30th, Saturday, November 6th, and Saturday, November 13th, they're asking Utahns to step up and dig through your closets. I know I did this a while ago with some relatives, but I had a cousin that was pretty accident prone, and it didn't have a truck. Asked me if I could take some crutches and a cane, another walking device that he'd had in his closet since he was in high school, when he was getting in the more serious accidents, and drop them off at the hospital during a previous donation drive. Now, normally these things happen just so it's not sitting out there going to waste or getting tossed in a landfill, and can go to use. At this point, though, again, it's more of a dire need. So Hospital Association spokesperson again today, and Intermountain Healthcare spokesperson as well, saying November and December are busiest months for the types of hospital care, accidents, things like that involve crutches, canes, walkers, and non-motorized wheelchairs, and they are running short throughout Utah. The list of donation sites runs from, there's Mount Point Medical Center in Lehigh, got Davis Hospital in Layton, St. George Regional Hospital down at the southern end of the state, Utah Valley Hospital in Provo, Intermountain Home Care in Ogden, and, of course, Logan Regional Hospital. Donation dates, again, are Saturday, October 30th, Saturday, November 6th, and Saturday, November 13th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They'll have donation sites set up on those 3 dates, the 30th, the 6th, and the 13th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Logan Regional Hospital and various other locations to take your donations. Again, asking for crutches, aluminum crutches, canes, walkers, and non-motorized wheelchairs, as they're facing a pretty serious shortage of that equipment due to supply chain issues and a global aluminum shortage. Temporary, of course, but it's still hitting us pretty hard. All donated equipment, spokesperson said, will be inspected for safety, sanitized, and then redistributed. Dr. Joey Camarath, Senior Medical Director for Rehabilitation Services at Intermountain Healthcare, said during the announcement today that he's never seen a supply shortage like this. He said each month his department alone, one department at one hospital, uses an average of about 1,800 pairs of crutches. He said, but the department's supply chain is at this point run completely dry. They have what they have, and there won't be any more for who knows how long coming in. He added that suppliers have informed medical centers throughout the United States that they don't know when they'll have more of these mobility assisting equipment to deliver. So that's a pretty big problem. So again, the Intermountain Healthcare, Utah Hospital Association, and University of Utah Health asking all Utahns to dig through their closets, find anything you might have along the lines of crutches, walkers, non-motorized wheelchairs, and drop them off between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. on 3 optional Saturdays, October 30th, November 6th, and November 13th. For those listening here in Northern Utah, Logan Regional Hospital. If you're listening along the Wasatch Front, Intermountain Home Care in Ogden, and the Davis Hospital in Layton are the closest here in Northern Utah. For more information or to see additional sites, if you're listening from outside of the areas I've mentioned here, visit the website they've set up for this donation drive, which is Lean On Utah. That's what they're calling it, Lean On Utah. LeanOnUtah.com. Pretty serious supply chain issues when the hospitals are unable to get something I guess most of us probably assumed we'd never run out of. Hospitals currently looking at running out of crutches, walkers, canes, and non-motorized wheelchairs, asking the community to dig through their closets. If you happen to have any of this equipment, drop it off at the hospital on one of these dates. LeanOnUtah.com, the website. On the other side, an amazing op-ed that was published over the weekend for me, because it's something I think we should have been talking about a lot more. Facebook, Google, Twitter, all of the social media platforms and big tech giants in the news over and over the last few years for mishaps with data, for their role in spreading misinformation, for a recent report for Facebook showing that politicians were allowed to circumvent Facebook's please don't lie on our platform rule because politicians get a lot of traffic, which means a lot of ad revenue. So they were bending their own rules and got caught. Stories like this almost every week. It's bad. Congress, including our own United States Senator Mike Lee, leading a charge to crack down on them, to regulate this industry, to get them to kind of step up themselves, to self-regulate, and it hasn't been going well. And Congress is getting frustrated. You can tell. Missing in all of this, though, is us. The whole conversation never once mentions the fact that we're the users. We're the ones using their platform to spread misinformation. We're the ones liking or sharing a politician when they don't tell the truth. No one talks about that until this weekend. At least one op-ed has been written about exactly that. We'll talk about it on the other side of these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:36. This look at the news brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. The Boise Police Department says 2 people were killed and 5 more people and a police officer were injured in a shooting at the Boise Town Mall on North Milwaukee Street this afternoon in Boise. 1 person has arrested. So far, police have not released a motive.
One store worker telling us mall security alerted her and other employees to the shooting. She says they and about a dozen customers then rushed to the back room to hide from the gunman.
We went to the pretzel stand to get some pretzels, and all of a sudden we heard gunshots.
Officers methodically going store by store, searching for victims.
That was ABC's Keena Whitworth, and also Boise Police Chief Ryan Lee had this to say.
I cannot stress enough how traumatic this event is for the community at large, as well as for those that were witnesses or the families of those involved are involved themselves.
We'll have more on this throughout the afternoon and evening here on KVNU and from ABC News. Again, 2 people dead, 5 more people injured, including a police officer at the Boise Town Mall in Boise, Idaho this afternoon. A 39-year-old Nibley man has been sentenced to 4 months in jail for having sex with an underage boy at a local motel. Brody Coates was ordered to turn himself in to the Cache County Jail by November 1st to begin incarceration. Coates was sentenced during a virtual hearing in 1st District Court this afternoon. He previously accepted a plea deal, pleading guilty to 2 counts of unlawful sexual conduct with a 16 to 17-year-old, a third-degree felony. Logan City police officers began investigating Coates after the alleged victim, who lives in Brigham City, reported to engage in sex acts with the defendant at the Econo Lodge Inn and Suites. The crime took place July 3rd of 2020. The victim told officers he had previously met Coates through Grindr, a social networking and online dating app. The 2 exchanged sexually explicit photographs of each other before agreeing to meet. During today's sentencing, defense attorney Julie George said Coates was mortified about what he had done. She later explained her client was not trying to solicit sex from underage teens, and the victim had tried to proposition multiple men on the app. Coates said he regretted what he had done and was sorry. The victim's mother asked the court for a long jail sentence. She said Coates had manipulated and taken advantage of her son, who will have to live with what happened the rest of his life. And Texas Tech has fired Coach Matt Wells. The move comes 2 days after the Red Raiders couldn't hold a 2-touchdown halftime lead in a loss at home to Kansas State. Wells had a shot at his first winning record in 3 seasons with the Red Raiders. An inability to win Big 12 games plagued him, just as it did his predecessor. Cliff Kingsbury also was fired. Texas Tech did not win consecutive Big 12 games and was 7-16 in league play under Wells. Wells was a head coach at Utah State through 2018 when he left for the job at Texas Tech. KBNU News Time is 5:39.
Hey, get prepared for the hunting season. Did you remember to bring your hunting gear, your sleeping bags, and coats into Mount Logan Laundry? With their 55 and 80-pound washers and dryers, they can do any job. And while you're at it, bring in the comforters and blankets and get ready for the colder months ahead. Try Mount Logan Laundry. For a few quarters, you can use their large-capacity washers and dryers and be done in no time. Free Wi-Fi and drop-off service. They're at the corner of 5th East and 9th North in Logan, or in Brigham on the corner of 1st East and 7th South. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town.
KBNU weather, rain in our forecast tonight, mid-30s, about 100% chance of rain. Chance of rain and snow before 9 a.m. tomorrow. Mostly cloudy, mid-40s for the high. 30% chance of rain late Tuesday night. 40% chance of rain on Wednesday, mainly before noon. Mostly cloudy, near 50. Earlier today, it was 62. With rain, we have 53 right now here at KBNU. There is a winter weather advisory in effect from 6 o'clock this evening to noon tomorrow above 7,500 feet. So that's for our mountain areas. Weather brought to you by Whole Tree Care. Hurry and get your trees trimmed before it snows. If you're still cleaning up from the October snowstorm, let Whole Tree Care help. Do you like working with your hands? Whole Tree Care is hiring. Give them a call, 760-6587. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Hey, it's Al Lewis. We all know buttons make our lives easier. But if you have sleep apnea and can't use CPAP, did you know there's a button that can help you go from this to this? It's called Inspire. It's a small device that works inside your body with just the click of a remote. That's right, a button. If you struggle with CPAP, great sleep awaits at InspireSleep.com. Inspire. Sleep apnea innovation. No mask, no hose, just sleep. Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you. And review important safety information at InspireSleep.com.
Pristine wilderness can still be found in the West, where creeks run freely and historic apple trees still bear fruit. Maple Creek Ranch features breathtaking canyon views and opportunities for real estate development. 2.5-acre lots are now available with adjacent wilderness areas that provide endless riding and recreational possibilities. So find your piece of paradise just 35 minutes from Logan at Maple Creek Ranch. Schedule your appointment online at maplecreekranch.net.
This election, vote Keegan for Logan. With support from county and state leaders, Keegan Garrity understands the importance of working together while considering all perspectives. Keegan believes that by following smart growth principles, we can keep the city downtown while preserving the open spaces we love. Keegan is willing to engage with anybody, including those with opposing viewpoints. He's the type of guy you could share a Diet Coke with. Vote Keegan, a voice for the people. Paid for by the committee to elect Keegan Garrity.
Welcome back to KVN News for the people. I'm so excited to talk about this. It is. There's no shortage of stories every single week. I'm just about tech. I'll give you an example here. This is just the last 7 days in reporting at the Washington Post. I just picked them at random, but searching the Washington Post website for social media or tech giant related stories, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, anything like that. And here's just a sampling of some of the headlines. Facebook admits site appears hardwired for misinformation. Internal memo reveals. Facebook revelations. What's in the cache of internal documents? Facebook whistleblower calls for urgent external regulation, saying the company has no way or no idea how to handle the monster they've created. Commentary along the lines of banning anonymous social media accounts, something being proposed in Britain, actually, would only stifle free speech. I agree with that. Also, it wouldn't fix anything. Social media giants facing $10 million fines for privacy breaches under proposed European government reforms. Social media emboldens stalkers to take action, data reveals. I mean, these stories go on and on. Facebook rolls out campaign to fight misinformation. First post. in the Australian election to top Facebook's daily share list. Total misinformation, despite their campaign to fight it. Facebook missed weeks of warning signs over the January 6th insurrection. Facebook's own internal documents reveal. Just a million different stories. Facebook executive says tech firms need stronger regulations. All these people who've quit saying, look, it's a mess in there. Most of us focus on Facebook, but Twitter recently had to admit that their own algorithm shows bias when it comes to right-wing extremist politicians because, well, they generate a lot more likes and tweets and reshares and comments. And their algorithm then waits for that and shows it to more people. So the more inflammatory, the more outrageous, the more even the Twitter founder Jack admitted racist a post might be, the more people are going to see it. And he said that's a problem we need to deal with. So it's not just Facebook. It's mostly Facebook, but it's not just Facebook. Instagram having some problems along these lines when it comes to teen girls and suicide ideation. Microsoft is currently facing antitrust charges again. Google was caught red-handed, sitting back and letting Facebook take all the heat, only to find out that they were actually capitalizing and intentionally monetizing the flaws in Facebook when it comes to the spread of misinformation. So these stories, again, are weekly. And it's good, important journalism. I'm glad Congress is on this. This is one of the things that I agree 100% with Senator Mike Lee on. And interestingly enough, it's one of the few things Senator Mike Lee and Senator Elizabeth Warren agree on at all, which is that big tech is a problem, regulations are lacking, and we may have to have a conversation about, even through government action, breaking some of them up, especially when it comes to Google and ad revenue and things like that. That'll never happen. But the conversation can be scary for these companies and force them to actually get their act together, maybe. So all this is important, and I don't mean in any way to say it's not important journalism, that it's not important for Congress to tackle these things. But one of my frustrations throughout all of this is that there's never any talk of us, of the people behind all of this. The people who, the platforms understandably are catching all the heat, and probably deservedly. They designed it, they built it, they're the ones running it. But no one ever talks about the fact that if we weren't sharing this stuff, if we weren't sharing our data as haphazardly and sometimes cluelessly as we are, the data wouldn't be there for them to accidentally have a breach of. The misinformation wouldn't be existent if people weren't sharing it. Sure, Facebook makes it easy, and as that Twitter story implies, their algorithms are going to show you the most extreme and outrageous stuff because that's what gets the most attention. So you're going to see that stuff more often. That's a problem, and they need to deal with that. But if we were more aware of that and stayed away from it and didn't share it as users, another way to fix the problem, right? Finally, over the weekend, someone sent me this because they knew this was something I harp on all the time. An opinion piece in The Guardian. This is a worldwide online news site based originally in the UK, but now a global news site, written by Nesreen Malik. Now, that name might not sound familiar to anyone who is not a nerd. She is a longtime Guardian tech columnist. And she wrote over the weekend, it's titled, "Our Society is Troubled, but Beware Those Blaming It All on Big Tech." And she said, despite the fact that this discussion of online regulation in the United States Congress, in the UK, everywhere this is happening, is important and it's good. But, she says, and this is perfect, she says, it risks completely absolving the responsibility the rest of us have, the users have. Now, she especially focuses on what she calls the political right and the toxicity of the last few years. But this applies on the left. This applies to centrists and self-proclaimed moderates. I've seen sharing some pretty out there stuff as well. So I don't think she's focusing on the political right because that's currently where she's writing from in the UK, where this charge is coming from, where the most information is being shared. But I think this spans all political ideologies and leanings. This is a human thing. But what she writes is amazing. She says, you might remember during last summer's onslaught of racist abuse towards black players in the England football team. If you didn't follow that story, it's easy to find. It was disgusting, gross. But she said, instead of reckoning with the fact that racism still haunts this country, she's talking about England, where she lives, she said, we busied ourselves with a big bluster on how the online cowards could be silenced if only the platforms just demanded that they identify themselves. This is a current debate in England. The fact that these people could post all this racist garbage anonymously has become a discussion. What if they weren't allowed to? What if Facebook and Twitter didn't allow people to have anonymous accounts? Might that fix it? Might that stop them from posting this? And she writes, Malik, she says, we busied ourselves with that, but we resort to this explanation, this shadowy social media, to avoid responsibility and accountability. She said there is little evidence that those abuses are from identifiable sources. There were many more posts being shared by identified people using their real name and just proud of the racism they were throwing around, she writes. This is all after England's defeat in the 2020 Euro final. And it angered people, and they went after some players, and they went after them in some nasty ways. We've had things like this happen with Jazz players here in Utah, unfortunately and embarrassingly. But it happens. And she said, that's a time when you shouldn't be saying, oh, if only tech giants would be doing a better job, or if they wouldn't let people post anonymously. What you should be saying, Malik writes, I'm paraphrasing here, is why is there so much racism out there still? And why is everyone kind of turning a blind eye to it? She says, she writes, good old social media, always there to paper over the giant cracks in our political failures and societal shortcomings. Bad tech is a convenient fall guy for a whole gang of perpetrators. It has been particularly useful in recent years. Brexit, she uses an example, which was enabled by some right-wing politicians and press to engage in divisive and dangerous rhetoric that now is having economic consequences, particularly towards the country's political and legal institutions as well. And she says everyone pointed at social media and said, wow, Brexit would have never happened if it weren't for Twitter. And then she comes back and says, when Parliament and the Supreme Court, attacked by the media for being saboteurs and traitors, come under fire from members of the public, it's suddenly an entirely different matter. Suddenly it's people being too mean. Not social media's fault, but people being too mean. What she's pointing out is that politicians are seeking solutions in a way that doesn't really address the problem. And she uses the coolest example. She uses, for science fiction fans, Isaac Asimov's first law of robotics. If you're not familiar with this, it's a robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. She says when companies reach the scale and reach, for example, Facebook, they can appear to many people a little too much like big governments for the right, or the opposite, a quiet and profit-driven corporation for the left. Both these things can be true, but are they in this situation? She said the fear is that when these companies are this big, that they'll somehow go too far. Whether you're on the left or the right, you find a way to see that happening. But she says social media companies do regularly fail in their responsibilities. That's acknowledged. She uses Asimov's first law of robotics to say this is where you have to kind of take a step back. She said fixating solely on reforming big tech risks turning into a huge displacement exercise. While we're rightly focused on the excesses of tech platforms and large tech companies that have turned abuse and lies into financial profits, we must also realize that the bad robot theory, Asimov's theory, is tempting because it places the problem not only outside of our institutions, but outside of our very selves. There are other anonymous players who need to be named in this crisis of discord. Those parties in our political and our media who have created so much discontent and hostility by not doing their jobs, that it all regularly overflows into the sewers of social media. It's the greatest example, basically. The robot can do no harm. And that's the proposed solution to all of this, is something like Asimov's rule. But the problem is, if we, the users, are dumping, including our politicians, dumping garbage into the system, the robot's not going to produce anything but garbage. It's an amazing column, putting the responsibility, at least in part, back on users, on us, and our elected officials. Check it out. I've linked to it on our Facebook page. We'll be back right after this.
We are all Logan. We all breathe the same air, drive the same roads, and walk the same trails in our great city. It doesn't matter if you live on the east or the west side, the north or the south side. I represent you on the Logan City Council. I care about the quality of life for our current and future generations. We must all come together and tackle the challenges we face. I am Ernesto Lopez, and I'm running for re-election to the Logan City Council.
Paid for by the committee to elect Ernesto Lopez.
When our children and grandchildren graduate from college, many are strapped with debt, but they still look forward to owning their own home. Proposition 1 will give them the opportunity to enjoy the benefits of home ownership by providing an attainable housing product in Providence. Let's help people realize the dream of home ownership. Vote for Proposition 1, paid for by Complete Vineyard for Providence.
Cold weather is here. Let the gold medal winner in the Best of Northern Utah's fireplace category help you update your home with Heat and Glow's full line of gas or wood-burning products. Building a new home? Let the professionals at Advanced Fireplace and Stove design and install your fireplace. From traditional to modern, Heat and Glow has something for every design and every budget. Install a product that will allow your family to make memories for years to come. Stop by at their showroom or visit them at advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
Utah's ICUs are full of COVID patients, nearly all of whom haven't been vaccinated. Last week, it took hospital staff an average of 3 hours and 45 minutes to locate an available ICU bed for a patient who needed one. Delays in getting into a hospital aren't just inconvenient, they can also impact the care a patient receives. Please get vaccinated to keep ICU beds open and to help others get the help they need. It's easy to get the vaccine. It's easy to find out more information about the vaccine. Just visit coronavirus.utah.gov.
Well, the leaves are changing, fall is in full swing, and so are the great deals on Ram trucks at Heritage. During Ram Power Days, check out 0% financing for 72 months, available on all new Ram models. Experience for yourself why Ram is the #1 brand loyalty. And right now, we've got discounts up to $5,000 off on Ram, the most awarded light truck in America. Come see why Heritage is the hometown dealer with the biggest deals in Logan, Tremont, and Brigham City.
Tuesday edition, Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show. The latest on the budget reconciliation bill. Is it going to happen? The border crisis rolls on. Plus, Buck, we got some awesome guests.
We have Zalmay Khalilzad, who was the U.S. ambassador and the direct negotiator with the Taliban under both Trump and Biden, for a huge interview on just what happened this past summer. We'll get into that coming up on the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM at 610 AM.
Staying on course without support is tough. With help from family and community, you get valuable support for recovery from a mental or substance use disorder. Join the Voices for Recovery. Visible, vocal, valuable.
For confidential information on mental and substance use disorders, call 1-800-662-HELP. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
PTA can help enrich your child's life and learning experience. Join us today.
All day, all night, all day.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. That is our time for today. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to be with us tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m. here on KVNU. We're going to be talking about an amazing write-up on a local level. If you haven't seen it on Netflix, there is a show called various versions of this, The Toys That Made Us, The Movies That Made Us. And I hear there's one coming up called The Printed Classics That Made Us, where they dig into the history of the episode on Back to the Future is amazing. Actually, so many things I didn't know about how that movie was made, and almost not. A local group is actually taking this up, telling some both history of Utah, but also some behind-the-scenes, how it happened details I had no idea. They'll be joining us on the show tomorrow at 4 o'clock, so be sure to stay tuned. Dave Ramsey is next here on KVNU Logan.
KVNU, Logan, 610 AM and 102.1 FM with the best talk and information.